Hello everyone and welcome to V-Knowledge on Cinema. I'm Victor Omoayo and today's film is one of my all-time favorites, and that is The Apartment, starring Jack Lemmon, Shirley MacLaine, and Fred MacMurray, directed by Billy Wilder, written by Billy Wilder and IAL Diamond, and released in 1960. Billy Wilder is one of my all-time favorite directors, and the man has made one classic film after another, from Double Indemnity to The Lost Weekend, Sunset Boulevard, Ace in the Hole, Some Like It Hot, Sabrina. These are just a handful among many of Wilder's films that still feel fresh and relevant today. And what made Wilder so good was that he effortlessly combined serious drama with silly comedy. And his characters were always magnetic, and you were always drawn to them, whether they were earnest, everyday types who were hard on their luck, or conniving, shady individuals who were always up to no good. And even though they were always up to no good, you always wanted to see just how far they would go. The Apartment is Billy Wilder at the peak of his game, and it stars Jack Lemmon as the character of C.C. Baxter, who's this ambitious corporate climber who wants to rise above the ranks in his company. And he goes about this by secretly loaning out his apartment to the other company executives who bring their mistresses there to get down on some undisclosed hanky-panky. Baxter is not the only one who's trying to get a leg up in his job, however. There's also Shirley MacLaine's character, Fran Kubelik, who's this elevator operator that Baxter is rather sweet on. But unfortunately for him, she has her eyes set on upper-level manager J.D. Sheldrake, played by Fred MacMurray, who always strings her along with promises of divorcing his wife so that he and Fran can run off and finally be together and start this whole beautiful new life. The Apartment is my favorite Billy Wilder film, and what makes it so enjoyable for me is that it's an ideal mixture of both comedy and drama, and it's also a movie that doesn't feel dated in the slightest, as there are many aspects of this picture that still make it feel truly relevant. Originally, Billy Wilder was inspired by the 1945 David Lean film Brief Encounter, which featured a scene where a man leaves his apartment so that the main couple of Celia Johnson and Trevor Howard's characters can carry on their secret love affair. Wilder said that he wondered about the guy who chose to allow his home to be used for such purposes. What was going through his mind? What did he get out of this arrangement? From this idea came The Apartment, and while the character of C.C. Baxter isn't the same exact dude, he certainly has a story of his own to share. A young 30-something bachelor living in New York City, Baxter is just one of the millions of people around the world running the rat race. He aspires to rise above the ranks in his company, and he has just a surefire method to reach his goal: by opening his apartment to the executives and managers at his job, where they all bring their side dames to discreetly get their extramarital affairs on, far from the eyes and ears of their wives and other co-workers. In return, the executives lead him on with promises of a big promotion, his own office, and a bump in pay, and Baxter is all too happy to please. Because of the illicit goings-on in his apartment, from the loud music to the laughter and sounds of passionate boot-knocking, Baxter's neighbors perceive him to be a sort of Lothario, a player who gets busy with all manner of women every other night, all night long. Dr. Dreyfus, the neighbor who lives next door to the young man, warns him that he'll meet a bad end at the rate he is going. Strangely, Baxter doesn't even correct the doctor's mistaken assumptions about his character. This is primarily because of his deal to keep his boss's philandering a secret, but perhaps it's also because he's completely conscious of his own prostitution of his values. Given the way Baxter is so willing to be exploited by his superiors, he's essentially a hoe of a different sort, so his neighbors aren't actually too far off the mark. Promises galore in The Apartment, and the actions of both Baxter and Fran Kubelik are powered by the possibilities of both economical and personal advancement. They are not hapless victims of a corporation that intends to screw them over in more ways than one. Rather, they are willing participants in the cynical system of their workplace. They both have their own rationalizations for putting up with such a noxious environment. The wide shot of the office where Baxter works exemplifies his desire for greater success, as well as his lowly place in the corporate's food chain. He's just one out of hundreds of wage-slave office grunts, plodding away at his desk while others do the same. We see row after row of desks, stretching far back almost to infinity it seems like, and these endless rows are a reminder of how there are those who work their entire lives without advancing or achieving anything better than what they have currently. This is not necessarily because of a lack of ambition, but that sometimes one's sense of idealism has to yield to the real-life necessities of basic survival, which is what Baxter tells himself through his own actions. Meanwhile, Fran, one of the elevator operators in the building where Baxter also works, is dealing with her flailing love affair with one of the head honchos, J.D. Sheldrake. The relationship between Sheldrake and Fran is that of a rider dangling a carrot on a stick in front of a donkey. He continually manipulates her by leading her on with faux sincere promises to end his marriage to his wife and leave their kids behind so that he and Fran can make their own affair official. Fran is continually at odds with Sheldrake's conniving assurances and her mixed feelings towards him, but she continues the love affair anyway. Like Baxter, Fran sells herself for the allure of something better. For her, the possibility of becoming the new Mrs. Sheldrake equals a comfortable lifestyle without the dull job she now does. In fact, there is one crass moment where Sheldrake, meeting with Fran in Baxter's apartment, drops yet another excuse for putting their relationship on ice. In order to soothe her anger, Sheldrake insensitively hands her a $100 bill as her Christmas present, telling her to go buy something nice. The ice-cold look on Fran's face says it all. The apartment primarily unfolds during the holiday season, right around Christmas time and New Year's Eve, so there's quite a bit of festiveness to go around. Even though all of the employees throw a Christmas party in the office, with plenty of laughs and drunken camaraderie to be had, both Baxter and Fran feel a sort of melancholy loneliness amidst the crowds. At the party, Baxter shows Fran to his new office, beaming with pride as he was recently promoted, a reward for selling out his integrity. He discovers that Fran is seeing Sheldrake when she shows him her broken compact mirror. She remarks that the mirror makes her look the way she feels, much to Baxter's shock and dismay. The mirror in this instance also represents Baxter's broken and compromised sense of dignity, as well as the shattering of his rose-colored adoration of Fran. Furthermore, the cracked mirror also signifies the breaking of traditionally held beliefs of the American dream, which means that if you work hard and follow the rules, you will succeed. On the contrary, for Baxter and Fran, it is not about what you know, it is about who you know, and who can do favors for you. The wide aspect ratio of the film is used to an understated yet poignant effect. There's a sense of irony in the use of such wide framing when you look at Baxter's small, cozy apartment, which is a far cry from the enormous space of his desk-filled workplace. The wide framing in Baxter's pad is reflective of his rather limited scope both personally and professionally. For him, his only goals consist of obtaining that oh-so-glorious promotion, check, a windowed office with his name and new title on the door, check, and the respect, if that's what you'd call it, of his bosses, check. There's nothing better for Baxter than to be the buddy boy of the corporation. This myopia also translates to his very office, which is not much bigger than a broom closet. Again, another way of small spaces both reflecting and restricting his perceptions and his shrunken self-worth. Even Dr. Dreyfus implores Baxter to stop being such a nebbish pushover, or schnook as one woman refers to him as, and to become a mensch, which is the Yiddish word for a human being. For Fran, the wide framing of the film also emphasizes her own troubles. She spends her workdays in a small elevator car, moving up and down the building from floor to floor. The elevator signifies her feelings of constraint. She wants to love and be loved with someone nice like a C.C. Baxter, yet she tolerates the emotional pain and embarrassment by Sheldrake's flakiness for the hope of fulfillment. She has been elevated, so to speak, to euphoric highs and has plummeted to the deepest and darkest lows. Along with the fine directing and excellent writing, The Apartment also radiates through its pitch-perfect performances of its lead cast. Jack Lemmon is just the ideal actor for the role of C.C. Baxter. I remember watching his episode of Inside the Actor Studio where he explained how comedy is a lot harder to pull off effectively than drama. In The Apartment, Lemmon gracefully walks that tightrope between both genres, and considering how pathetic Baxter is willing to make himself, it's no small feat in managing to elevate the role above mere caricature and farce. He's a charming everyman who we want the best for, who we want to find his inner mensch. Shirley MacLaine also walks a fine line between strength and weakness as Fran Kubelik. She is no naive dum-dum. She knows that Sheldrake is an insincere cad, but as I have said earlier, her wants are tempered by realism. It might not be a fairy tale romance, but there's a raise in status and comfort that she sees, and it just might be worth it, so she thinks. Like Jack Lemmon's role, MacLaine blends her witty charisma with an affecting sober-mindedness. Fred MacMurray, known mainly for his wholesome fatherly role in the 1960 sitcom My Three Sons, once again plays a decidedly unwholesome role as the shady J.D. Sheldrake. What makes his character such a slimeball is how heedless he is to Fran's brewing troubles and his sincere attempts to position himself as a devoted, faithful family man and upstanding manager. Unlike the other executives who relish in their philandering, Sheldrake actually has the arrogance to believe, without the slightest bit of irony, that he is a paragon of virtue. Reportedly, MacMurray actually received some flack from one angry fan as a result of his performance in the film, who claimed that he ruined his Disney image for starring in such a dirty picture. The Apartment is a film that I instantly loved when I first watched it many years ago, and there's not one false note in this movie whatsoever. This film also went on to win 5 Academy Awards, including Best Original Screenplay, Best Director, and Best Picture. And it's a movie that makes you ask yourself just how much of your character or your values would you be willing to compromise in order to get ahead in life, whether it's in the workplace or on a personal level. And once again, thank you for watching. I'm Victor Omoayo, and you can find more video essay goodness on my V Knowledge channel.